Hello everybody and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner. Today I have a build along video that might explain the length if your eyes kind of like jumped out when they saw the time of this video. It's because it is a real-time video, so it is a follow along if you want to do that. Otherwise, maybe you just want to put it on in the background and listen to me talk. But for this build, I am doing a build on the Frosted Heights floating island, and the concept is kind of like a wintry palace and grounds. Now, the challenge I set myself for this video was to only use Star Path items as furniture. So everything you see other than the foliage, the trees, obviously Anna's house, and the pathing is just Star Path items. I kind of wanted to do that to show you some ideas of what you could do just using these items. I know that a lot of people are going to mix and match them with stuff we have already, and that is of course fine. I just wanted to see if I could make a build just using those. I'm not counting trees in that because trees are kind of like environmental. So in terms of just furniture, it is just Star Path items from the Frost Fairies Star Path, which I love, and I love how it turned out. As I said, this is a kind of a real-time build. It's what I call a follow-along. When I did the build in the bind, I got a really good reception and I got a lot of positive comments saying that people enjoyed the actual real-time element of it rather than a speed build. I have done both and I enjoy both, but this one is a real-time one, so it is just me kind of like talking and chatting through my process, what I do, changing my mind, working things out as we go, instead of just narrating over the top of a speed build. Because this is so long, I'm not going to waste any more time on my intro. I do hope that you enjoy this build. I hope that maybe if you followed along, it turned out okay. Whatever happens, I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I'm probably going to keep it for a little while. That is until I come up with my next idea and we tear it all down and do it all over again, as we love to do as decorators. So with that being said, let me just jump straight into the build. We'll start with a blank canvas. I'll show you how I set up everything to begin with, and then we'll just get going. All right, gang, so this is my Frosted Heights floating island. I actually think this might be my second favorite island. It actually even might be my joint favorite island along with the plaza. I think the plaza is a bit more versatile, but this one, it just has a really nice feeling about it. And I love that they added all of these smaller floating islands kind of off the back. One thing I did notice just before I get into the build, these trees are actually from the DLC, but they're also recolored. So these are white versions of the Ever After trees. I do hope that we get these in the game because they're kind of like a perfect little addition. And they have done that across some of the other islands as well, which is interesting because we don't have those pieces of foliage. So what I've done ahead of this build, I've just placed Anna's castle down because this is going to be kind of the centerpiece. I'm kind of going with like a wintry fortress kind of with lots of foliage. And I do have a concept, so you will see that develop. We're going to go with kind of a regal, special sort of, how to phrase it. It's going to be nice. It's going to be fun. You'll see how it develops. And this is going to be real time anyway, so you're going to be able to follow along. I've placed this sort of like in the back third of the floating island, so it's not in the center. It's centrally aligned this way, but it's just slightly off the back, so that gives us enough space around it to do what I want to do, and I think it's going to look really nice. So what else I've done, I've already put the items down that I want to use in this build. So obviously, because this is a Star Path only build, these are the furniture items that we got in the Star Path this time around, the Frost and Fairy Star Path. Now, there are a couple of indoor items, but obviously I'm not using those because this is an outdoor build. So these are going to be the only furniture that I use. I have set myself a little challenge. I think we're going to make it work. I think it's going to look really nice, but I am going to fill the space in with foliage. I don't feel like that's cheating. I think it's kind of like on Drag Race when RuPaul says that it's a sewing challenge and he says you can use your own undergarments. I'm going to treat my landscaping items as undergarments. So I've brought in all of the different sized trees just so I have them easily to grab without going into the furniture menu. I've got the Ever After trees, I've got some of the frozen trees, and then I've got a couple of the little fir trees as well. And I've placed down all of my rocks and the bigger landscaping pieces that fill out the space. These are going to be important, so don't forget these. They are critical to all of my builds. I feel like they work really well. They give us a lot of bang for our buck, if you will, because they are sort of like one item that contains a lot of different things, and they've got a nice little bit of elevation on it that picks up the biome floor. So these are going to be very important. If you do want to do something like this, if you're considering doing a build along with me, I've popped my Star Path items over here, and like I said, all of my foliage items kind of even in size order, just so I can grab them really quickly on the right-hand side. And then we're just going to start building. So the first thing that I usually do is the path. from whatever structure I'm working with. However, I know that I want to use this little fountain, and I know I want it to be on the approach to the castle. So I'm going to place this down first because then we're going to do the path around the outside of this fountain. So I'm going to bring this probably down to about here. Yeah, about here. And I'm also going to rotate it now because we can. So I have the little water fountains kind of coming out at 45 degrees instead of directly in front of the doors. So you see how that kind of like goes that way and that way. I just prefer that. I think it looks a bit nicer. It doesn't make too much of a difference, but it's just a small detail that I like. I'm going to go into the pathing menu and then I'm going to grab the snowy path with the border. And then we're going to bring it out probably just about there. I'm going to make it 3 wide just so it fits right in front of the doors, just in front of the castle. And then looking at that, it gives me a better idea of how close I need to put this fountain to the castle doors. So I'm actually going to move it down probably 1 or 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building out a path around the outside because I'm going to delete the inner part of the path. And then we're going to just have the fountain kind of on the frosty floor instead. So if we do that, I'm going to repeat the same on this side. Just like that. I've said before how having like a step in your path adds a bit of visual interest, and it really does. I think it just makes it so much more interesting to look at. And then I can just go ahead and delete. Well, actually, let me move it. I'm going to go ahead and delete the bits around the outside. That looks dreadful. What have I done? What have I done? Now, I'm not going to keep that as a single piece of path. I am going to extend it. So we're going to bring it out, down, and then we're just going to double up sort of like the whole path. Just like that. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Just sort of doubling it out. So we've got a 2-size path just around the edge, and then it kind of joins that 3-size path. Now I am missing a little bit here. I just need to delete that one piece. And then I can recenter that right in the middle. And that already looks really nice. That already looks really nice. I'm wondering if I can get rid of those edges. No, I don't think that looks as good. So sometimes you can overdo it. Like if I had this sort of like going up here as well, that doesn't overdo it. I think that looks good too. So let me go against what I was about to say and let's extend it out to about there. There we go. Looking at that already, it looks really elegant. It looks really nice. I love how that turned out. And then we'll be able to infill this with foliage a little later on. But for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to extend out this way. So what am I starting with? 313. So if I come to maybe, should I go out 10? Yeah, we'll take it out 10. And then we'll extend that to a 3 width path as well, which kind of matches the one going up to the castle doors and obviously the one coming out. So the plan for this is the entrance to the castle grounds is going to be sort of like here. We're going to be able to walk around the fountain, go off to the right, go off to the left, and then also go off into the castle if you want to. I'm going to repeat the same on the other side. So we're going to go out 10. So I know I've got 283. So I just need to go to 273. Fill that in, even though I do wish we had a fill-in tool. And that gives us a nice basis to work from. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to work on the right and the left-hand side simultaneously. So this side, what I kind of want to do is I'm going to use this gazebo and we're going to actually set up a little, I guess, relaxing area, but it's also going to have this food warmer. Well, food warmer? Why would I call it a food warmer? I don't even know what this is called. It's cooking station in the game, but I'm thinking like it's kind of a fire pit more for like doing s'mores or something like that. That sounds better than a food warmer. It made it sound like a microwave. Anyway, I'm going to bring this gazebo over and we're going to have that sort of just about there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start extending this path out. So I'm going to do stepping out until I get to that leg. And then on this one, I'm going to step back in. And then I can repeat the same thing along the back. And then I'm going to step in and then out until we get kind of where we want it to be. There we go. That looks good. Let's fill that in. How many times can I say I wish that we had a filling in tool? Anyway, we're just gonna fill that in really slowly. And then once that is done, I can start placing the seats underneath. And then this bit will, well, I can't say that it'll nearly be done already, but actually the concept of it will be, because this isn't actually a very complex build. All that adds the detail is sort of the foliage elements. Using the Star Path items does make it feel like a really nice build. However, I do always say this, all of these foliage items do really make the difference. So that's why I always go on about these really big items, because just placing a couple of those down can change a build from looking like super bare to just like full, lived in, full of life. And it's just how I like to operate. So yeah, I'm actually going to bring, I think, this path out one more all the way around. Just looking at it, I think it could do with it. Yeah, so we're just going to extend it by one right around the edge. But actually, I'm going to fill this space with little flower bushes just around the edge anyway. So I guess it doesn't make too much of a difference, but it gives it a little bit more breathing room if we do that. You see, it just makes it feel a little bit more spacious, and yeah, putting the bushes down means that we won't really see the edges of the border or any clipping, so hopefully that will work. Watch me end up removing that in just a minute, but for now I'm going to move over to the left side, and actually I've kind of tightened that space up, so I'm just going to try and match it a little bit. I think it's about there. So I'm just doing that for my benefit, but this side is actually not going to come off. Actually, no. This side is going to come off. I'm going to try and replicate this exactly. So bear with me while I try and get a hold of this. So I need to come up to here. I do wish that there was a way that I could like highlight a whole section of furniture as well. Like maybe there was like a selection tool that I could highlight a section, copy it, and then paste it down. That would be really, really helpful. Can you imagine? My symmetrical dream snaps would, they would be changed forever. Yeah, I think this looks just about right. So I'm going to bring that down, and then I'll start from this side so I know that it is equal with what I have already, rather than guessing. And we've got one more step. And then just there, just like that. This can feel a bit slow when you're sort of like watching along in real time. I do speed builds as well. However, I had a lot of feedback on the single build that I did in the bind where it was real time and sort of like, I think I titled it as a follow along, like an easy follow along. I had a lot of really nice comments on that saying that they really enjoyed doing it in real time and watching my thought process instead of kind of me talking over the narration. So that's what we're going with again for this one. If you do enjoy that style, please do let me know, because I'm willing to do both. I'm willing to do either. I can do speed builds, I can do real-time decorating. Whatever works for you works for me. I wish that I could fill this in. Add another one to the tally. I wish there was a pathing filler. There we go. All right. That looks pretty good. I think that's exactly symmetrical. I think I got away with that, just about. So what I'm going to do now is actually this side, as I said, the right-hand side is going to be sort of like a relaxing space with the food warmer to make s'mores. And then this side, I had a nice idea of making it sort of like an outdoor music theater. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the piano that we got in the Star Path. And I'm going to rotate that just so it like sits nicely at a 45-degree. And then I'm also going to bring in the harp, because we got one of those as well. And I'm going to have that sort of like matching, kind of like just about there. So this bit is then going to be sort of like where maybe Anna and Elsa can do outdoor performances. They can have a live orchestra. You know, it's very that vibe. And the fact that it's all like wintry just makes it feel even better. So I'm just trying to get the right placement. I think that works, because I don't want them to be too close together, but I also don't want them to be too far apart, I should say. But yeah, I love the way the 45 degree is working. I can't wait to bring it to paths. I'm hoping that they're working on that mechanic. I don't know how they would do it, how they would do rotation of the paths, but I think whenever they do decide to do that, it'll be super super positive. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring over some of these chairs. And while I'm looking at it, I actually might need to move these back like 1 or 2 tiles, because what I want to do is I actually want to have this sort of be, I guess you would say it's like a fanned out version of the seating now that we get the 45 degree. So I'm going to have to actually see, because when I'm placing these down, I can see that obviously they're kind of a little bit squished together. But you get the gist. I wanted it to be like a circle around the outside. So what I might need to do actually is I might need to make this left-hand pathing a little bit bigger, unless I just go with 3 for the front row and then maybe 5 for the back. Oh no, it'd be 4 for the back, of course. My maths is not my strong suit. Oh no, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to extend this path, only because this is kind of the vibe I wanted. Like, you know, almost like movie theater seating, or well, yeah, proper concert seating. I kind of wanted to use these chairs for that purpose, but as you can see, the path doesn't want to let me do that with the current setup. So we're gonna actually extend this left-hand side, and we're gonna try and beef this out a little bit so it doesn't get too big, but also doesn't get too in the way. So I'm going to start by adding an extra layer around the entire path, and we'll see how that pans out and whether that gives us any more space. Because actually, looking at it, I don't need more space out the back, like from this bit, because they're all kind of sat here. So what I could do is I could end up bringing this all forward slightly, and then we can get rid of the backside of that path. So I'm going to bring this down here. I'm going to get rid of those two. Actually, wait. I think that the 5 like that works. I think the 5 like that works. See, this is what you watch the video for, right? This is me just guessworking and deciding while I'm actually doing the video what works and what doesn't. Would you believe that I actually did a test build of this as well? So the first build took me about 2.5 hours, but this one was meant to be nice and quick. However, I'm not I'm not following the plan that I set out before this, so we're gonna have to wing it. This is kind of like a stream all over again, but yeah, I'm gonna get rid of each corner, and then we're gonna get rid of that back row. I am gonna make it look once again like this other side. So I need to get rid of these ones, bring this down, grab that, bring that down. Okay, I think we're nearly there. Yeah, that's it. That matches, right? That looks good. Okay, so now I can bring these back just by like 1 or 2. And then we'll be able to put the musical instruments back on this side of the path. Because this path is not matching up directly, I wish we did have half tiles. It's not matching up directly to the chair. I'm going to offset it just to the left. You're not going to notice once it's down. However, I'll know it's there. And it just makes it feel a bit better for me. I think we move this one across. Just one. Just like that. Or just like that. Yeah, that's better. There we go. So now I've got the 5. I can move this piano back here. And I can move that harp there as well to match. Although, I can't remember. This is just something that I'm thinking of. Are pianos usually facing that way, or are they usually facing kind of the audience like that? And then the harp would be sort of like here instead. I think that's what happens with pianos. So I'm going to go ahead and place it. I'm going to go ahead and place it that way instead. Because then the person can sit behind it and they can kind of look down and, yeah, maybe chat with the audience while they're playing. On the test build that I tried earlier, I did actually have like 4 seats across the back, and I think it was 5 or 6 across the front, which did look nice. However, now I've done this, this feels much more intimate. I really like this, and I think that it suits the vibe of this build a little bit more. The one thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to extend all of this pathing by 1, just so it is centered, because it is bugging me, and I know that's terrible, and I should just leave it, but... Oh, it didn't work because it's still off center. So let's just go back on that. I will stick with what we had. Cool. So those are the basic structures that I'm kind of like going with. Obviously the castle, we've got the nice fountain in the middle. We've got the kind of relaxing chill out area, but then we've also got the formal music area. You can kind of see it starting to take shape already. So if you are following along, I hope that you've been able to keep up and it's not too all over the place for you. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm actually going to place the seating underneath the gazebo. I was kind of thinking, originally, I wanted them just kind of like facing each other quite formally, but what I was thinking was having them at a 45 degree if I can. I'm going to have to see if I can get these to fit. But I kind of want them at a 45 and then to have the little cooking station in the middle. Let's see. That one doesn't want to fit just yet, but maybe the rotation is off. I am coming out to save it because whenever you remember to save your work, definitely do, because I believe there was a bug with the last update. I don't know if it got patched, that when you came out of furniture mode, it like threw everything everywhere. It's taking a little while to save, but there we go. Unfortunately, the villagers are not meant to be seen. However, they keep appearing. So I'm going to go back into furniture mode to get rid of those. And then we can move back over to this bit. And I'm just going to tweak. I'm going to tweak the rotation of this because it doesn't seem all that happy. Maybe, oh, there we go. That looks about right. So then I just need it there. I wonder if I can bring that forward. Ah, there we go. Perfect. They kind of sit together just like that. Although that is a little bit too far forward. I wonder if doing one more rotation we can get away with. 1. I think we've got it. 2. There we go. So they kind of fit like perfectly under that gazebo now. And then I can go ahead and place this cooking station for s'mores right in the middle. Just like that. I think if I had it right in the middle of the gazebo, it would be a bit too close to the benches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull it forward just by 1 tile. Yeah, just by 1 tile to have it like that. So actually, I can already see myself like sitting there. I think that's a super cute little build, especially because we're only using Star Path items. When you're doing builds like this, or anything that involves a lot of foliage, like this one is going to, I always recommend getting your furniture items down first, because when you start dropping in like tall trees and stuff like that, it makes visibility very difficult. So I find it easier to do the furniture. Then I try to do some of the small foliage, then the big foliage, and then I refill in at the end with little foliage just to flesh it all out. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to next grab an item that I've missed. So we're going to have to go into the furniture menu, and it's the crystal swing. This is a lovely, lovely item. I really, really love this. I think it's so well done. I kind of wish we got a version of it that didn't have the swing on it and was just an archway. I feel like that could have been really fun as well. But these are going to go kind of like right outside the castle doors. So it's going to frame up the fountain just like this. So we're going to rotate it all the way around. And then, yeah, I'm going to place it just about there for now. We might even bring it. Actually, no, we're going to bring it back a little bit. So I'm going to keep in line, but I'm going to bring it back kind of like a couple of steps. And then just to add like some realism, I'm going to extend the path just underneath it. So it actually feels like there is a path to it, if that makes sense. So just like that, I think that looks really cute. So I'm going to repeat it on the same, on the other side. Bring it down one, bring it across one, bring it down one, and then across. So you can kind of see like that symmetry is so is so pleasing to me, even though we've got two different builds going on the left and right. I think that looks great. Moving on, I think we can get some of the lights in now. I really love these kind of lights from the Star Path. They look really, really nice. I think the only thing, it's not even a gripe. The only thing is when they're down sort of like, so this is not rotated, but you can kind of see that the light itself is not kind of perfectly straight, if that makes sense. So when you have them kind of like that, they're a little bit offset because they're a little bit wonky because the branch kind of curves. I mean, I know it's like a natural sort of looking light, but it's when you're going for symmetry, that stuff doesn't help. So you kind of have to do it by eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put one kind of just on the corner. Maybe, yeah, about there. And then I'm going to place the other one. I rotate it. Probably just about, you see, like that. I just need to rotate it once more. And then that kind of matches. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing, just on this reverse side. So we're going to put it probably there. And then I'm going to try and get this one in there. But I need to rotate that one probably twice, just due to where it sits with the other one over here. So even though it has to sit a little bit further back than this one, it still works. And then I think we can get away. I think we can get away with that. I think that looks good. So they're going to light up at night. The light on them isn't that bright, but it's very pretty. And actually the crystals light up as well. When I saw that, I kind of wished that at night, everything else that had that crystal element kind of lit up as well. Actually, let me show you what it looks like at night. So I'm just going to go into my settings and I'm going to offset the time. We're going to go right the way forward. There you go. That's nighttime. So you can kind of see, if I turn them on and off, the crystals turn off as well. But I just thought it would have been so cool if like everything with those crystals, so like even this archway with the seat and stuff like that, if everything with the crystals lit up. However, it doesn't, so I need to move on. I'm going to change the time back. I'm just going to bring it back down. Round about there. Great. So it's definitely starting to take shape. We've got some lighting in already, and then we've got our benches in. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to start filling in some of the smaller spaces with these nice big crystals. So these are the ice crystals that we got in the Star Path. Of course, we got them in the Star Path because everything that I'm showing you is from the Star Path. But I'm going to place these kind of like at the entrance, or what I'm calling the entrance to, let's say, the castle grounds. And then I'm going to have these from Storybook Vale kind of like a fence. Well, not a fence, kind of like a gate, kind of like a welcoming gate. Just on either side of the path, just like that. Actually, so they're not too close to the path. I'm going to bring them out a little bit. Like that looks nice. It kind of feels like a gate. I love the way that they curve. I love the fact I can make them symmetrical. That feels like a super, super nice entrance. I guess, we could try seeing how it looks with these at the back. And then maybe these just in front, just kind of like this. I feel like that works as well. I mean, even putting them out to the side would work. Because what I'm thinking is, I know I'm going to do foliage in a little bit, but if I steal this Ever After bush, I might be able to sneak those in. And that kind of looks like really, really nice. You can't get these too close to these big sort of like swirly ones because they clash and it will get rid of the other ones. So you do have to have them sitting about there. Yeah, because that's too far out. So we're going to have them sitting about there. But in terms of entrances, I mean, that's a pretty nice one, right? Yeah, it's definitely a welcoming one. Because I'm trying to use every item from the Star Path, I am going to use this kind of cursed Buzz and Woody statue, and I'm going to place it down just behind, like, the musical area. Not for any particular reason. It doesn't have to look as though Buzz and Woody are playing them. Actually, if I have them there, it does look kind of cute, especially when you're sort of like from that angle. So it does look like Buzz and Woody are about to about to give us a show, which I do like. So I'm going to leave those right there in the middle. And then I'm going to come back over here to see what else I've got. There's actually not a lot else that I can use because we've pretty much used everything. I'm going to fill in some of the gaps with the crystals. The only thing here is kind of this crafting table, but I don't really have anywhere to place this. I'm not going to lie. I guess I could place it right at the back of the castle as kind of like a just in case. But that might be the only item that I end up not using for this build. But that's okay. That's okay. We persevere. So that actually means that we can move on to doing foliage at this point, because all of the Star Path items are in, they're down, the structure is there, everything looks pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of the smaller trees just initially off the bat, and I'm going to start placing those down. I know that I want this. So how am I going to make this work? Because I definitely want kind of like trees framing up the entrance to the castle. So that leaves us with an issue. I think that's a little bit too close to the swing, and I don't want to get rid of the path like that. So I might actually have to compromise. What is that? That is a 4x4. So I wonder if there's something else that we can find that might be like a 2x2. This little shrub is a 2x2, and so is this little tree. So I'm just gonna bring these over a sec. I mean, we can get these fitting in this space. So I'm wondering, just looking at the rotation, maybe if we have... No, I don't like that. I don't like that. If you're following along, don't follow that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move the castle back one tile. Because then I know what that's going to allow me to do. Did that move back one? No, I just moved to the left because this is in the way. So this crafting table's got to go. Okay, we're not using the crafting table. You can shout at me in the comments. And then I'm going to extend the path just by one. Because then I should be able to fit these trees just in here. As you know, I like to make sure everything's reflected, so I'm going to actually go ahead and rotate those because they've actually got a slight curve to them. So one's curving that way, one's curving that way. Then I can actually duplicate these, and we can go ahead and place these sort of like here and here. So we've got like 6 lights now surrounding the fountain, which is super, super nice. We got the little trees behind. I'll be able to fill in some of the space with little foliage as well. So that all works. I just love those trees, and I love them kind of like on the approach to the castle. So actually, I wonder if we can replicate that. Can we replicate that everywhere? Maybe having them at the entrance to everything. Let me just check the curvature of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can have that there, and then we're going to duplicate it. And then you're going to have to spin it by 8 now to get it to reflect, just because of the 16-point rotation. So instead of spinning it twice, you will spin it 8 times. That looks good. I'm going to do the same on this side. So we're going to go ahead and place one down there. And then I'm going to rotate that back just like that. And then to get it reflected, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just in case you're not 100% sure how to do the reflections. I think those ones on the left need to be brought back tile. So they need to go there. And now it really is all starting to come together, and it's starting to come to life. Getting the shrubs in, or these flower bushes, is an important step because they are integral to this build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them around this, and I kind of want them to be in a circle. So this might be a bit of trial and error until we can get this working just right. It might even be the fact that we take off, I think, maybe one tile on the edge of that, because that looks more circular now, and it's actually going to be hidden by that anyway, by these shrubs. The other side isn't, so let me just start placing these down, and we'll try and get these into some sort of circular formation. I'm kind of thinking 2 there, or maybe actually, yeah, let's bring them back so because when you rotate, you can see just about that it adds an extra tile. So that's a 4x4. Then that ends up being a 5x5 just because of the rotation. So I think if we place those there, just like that, we might be able to fit one there. And then I'm going to get rid of those. We're going to have another 2. So I think the easiest way to do it is to have 2 sort of like in line with each flat side, if that makes any sense. And then we fill in the diagonals afterwards. So I'll have one there, one there. Then we can have one there and one there. All right, it's not looking like a circle. So I'm going to get rid of those ones. I'm going to bring this one down by 1. It is a little bit of trial and error when you're trying to create a circle like this. And actually, it might be the fact that we don't use that rule that I just set. While I think about it, we don't use that rule I just set on the outside, like on the flat sides, because then it gives us a bit more flexibility to be able to duplicate as we need. It's very nearly there. And like I said, you do just need to play around sometimes to get a sense of what works and what doesn't. What I am going to be able to do now is actually get rid of some of that path. I thought that it would be just enough, but actually we don't need all of that pathing around the outside now, which is nice. And then we're going to get rid of these ones as well, just on this side. Cool. That looks just how I want it to look. Just like that. So I just wanted this nice, like, circular shrubbery just around the outside of this, just to make it feel like it's like enclosed in its own separate little space. I think it looks really nice. I think that we're going to be able to actually fill this little gap in with something else. So we might use another piece of underbrush, or maybe we'll put a rock in there or something just to fill that space in a little bit. Moving back over to the left side, I just had an idea, and I thought it would be cute if we had this sort of like music section framed up a little bit. So I was thinking of using these, maybe final placement to be determined, because the other thing that I want to use is these are really impactful. These kind of like frozen willow trees. They had a lot of oomph, I guess you could say. They had a lot of impact to a build, and having them just sort of like dangling down in the background makes all of the difference. So if we frame up the shot, well, I say shot as if it's a dream snap. If we frame up the build just like that, so they're kind of dangling down, we might be able to rotate these and then bring them back 1. So they're sort of like still in the build and still visible. I prefer it where it was. So there, just like that. That looks great. I'm happy with that. Coming back out and then just touching on this central piece again, I just want to add a couple more shrubs in. So we're going to add a couple more flower bushes. I'm going to see where I can fit them. I was hoping to fit them sort of like 2x2, but I don't think by looking at it, we're going to fit them right in this diagonal spot here, just because the light gets in the way a little bit. And it's not just one tile either. The light just like completely gets in the way. But I guess I could move the light back a little bit and have 2 shrubs just like that. And then, what was that? 2? But then we run into the issue back there. I guess we don't mind the little tiny bit of clipping. That looks okay. That's manageable because it lets us add those flower bushes. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to place one down, then we're going to place the other. Just like that. I was just looking at the difference. Actually, it looks like it's not exactly in the same place, which is interesting. It's been difficult. Well, it hasn't been difficult with the rotation. It's just been interesting with the rotation. Oh, there we go. I just rotated it once more and it fits. It's been interesting with the rotation because it does throw some of the items like out of sync. You have to work on them a little bit to get them to do what you want to do. But otherwise, it's been a really, really nice addition. Just looking for a spot, seeing if I can fit one of these over here. Maybe one here and one here. Just to add a little bit of color. I think I'm actually... I was going to say, I think I'm one away there. A lot of doing symmetry work is just counting tiles and things like that. I don't mind doing that, but if you do find that a bit boring, I won't take offense. I understand it's not for everyone. It's one of those things that kind of like you either love or you hate. I happen to love it. If you're a bit more free-spirited, then maybe you want to do your own thing. I know that I have some of these crystals left over, so I'm going to actually bring them in sort of like as the entrance to this little space. Actually, yes, I am going to do that, but I just want to see. I don't think it's going to fit, but I just wanted to see if we could sneak one in sort of like either side to fill that space. I actually think that looks nice. And then we can also bring maybe the little ones in down the front. Kind of just like that. Or even we could have them sort of like sitting on the outside of each other just to add a little bit of depth. There we go. Kind of like that. That looks good. That looks good. And then I can fill in with some little underbrush here. So we're using another item. That's good. We're checking that off the list. I think it's almost time to start bringing in some rock work. So we can drop a couple of little different rocks in here, see how they look. I'm going to start maybe just bringing in one of the bigger ones just to see what kind of placement it might like. Although I prefer to use these later on in the build. And actually, yeah, I think I'm going to use those later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in these small ones because these cluster rocks are like a favorite of decorators for good reason. And we can rotate them even more ways now, so it makes them fit just that little bit better. So I was thinking of maybe having them sort of like framing the path slightly down this little section, just as you kind of walk on over to the concert, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Maybe just having one there and one sort of like... Actually, no. I kind of like how that looks. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to replicate those and swap their places. Actually, no, we're going to rotate it again. We're going to rotate it again, just to make it look a little bit more random. Don't think, yeah, I'm not going to be able to fit that one there just because of the bench. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them up just like that. And then we're just going to find a couple of little places for some more clusters. So maybe we're going to have like a cluster here. Maybe a cluster there. And they don't even like add... Well, they do add a lot, but they're a small item is what I mean. They're a small item, but they add a lot of like texture. So using them just dotted around can make it feel a little bit more natural and a bit more rugged. I might even go and end up using them sort of like just sparingly instead. So like just like one here, one there, and then maybe one sort of like there. Just to, well, I've not me wanting to make it a little bit more natural, and I've somehow made it exactly symmetrical again. Never mind. I guess that's just in my DNA. We'll go with that then. And then I'm going to bring in some of these little rocks, which I really like. These are often used for like making curved paths and stuff like that. They're a little hack for making curved pathing. And actually, I haven't tried any curved pathing with this yet, but the fact it is now rotatable makes that concept seem a lot nicer. And it might be a lot easier to go ahead and do those paths. So yeah, I'm just going to throw like one or two of these down just to make it feel like it's got a bit more terrain to it. Sort of like, just like that. Yeah, there we go. We will fill in some more rocks as we put the foliage down, but I think it's probably time. Well, one more thing before we do that. I'm going to try this concept. What I was thinking was also having these nice big frozen willows kind of surrounding this gazebo as well, kind of like as a backdrop. So I'm going to place them kind of in a circle-esque shape around the edge. We're going to replicate, or at least try to replicate, what we did with the bushes. I'm just taking a look. I was a little slow. I was a little slow there because I was trying to count. Yeah, so I'm going to place these sort of like on every flat side, but then also on... So it's there. There's the flat side. If I bring that back, it then fits. And then I can bring this one down sort of like in between these two shrubs here. Just like that. And you can see it's kind of like spaced nicely. Because I want these to look like almost intentionally planted, I suppose is what you would say. And then we're going to place that one. The camera doesn't get caught. We're going to place that one just about there. And then I can move this there. So that looks good. That looks good. I like the way that they kind of like... I like the way that they kind of frame it up. You see, it's very dramatic. Very dramatic, very me. Yeah, I like that. I think that looks good. So now we can move on to the big pieces of foliage. So it's going to be these big landscaping pieces. I've said before, these are important. They only contribute 1 to your item limit, and you can use as many as you want. Plus, they give you, as I said, a nice bit of elevation because it kind of looks like a mound of snow. So for this, all we're actually going to do, we're just going to dot them around the edges. So I'm going to have one kind of like here, just like that, because I want everything to feel kind of enclosed. So I do have the 3 versions, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this other version. Actually, no, this is the other version. This one over here, because this one has some rocks on it as well, which is nice. So I'm going to place this right behind this seating area to make it feel like super enclosed. And you can butt it right up against the other one, and then anything in between, you're just able to fill in with your own foliage, which is really nice. So we've got 2 there. I've got 1, and then I can just bring them kind of around this side with the diagonal. Now we can, of course, rotate it and drop it like right in here. The nice thing about the foliage is that when you place it somewhere it can't be used, like it's like semi see-through, but then when you move it to somewhere it can be used, it just kind of like goes completely opaque. I say that because when you've got these big items down and you start filling in with like, let's say pieces like this, and you want to see how to fit that in, you kind of like just moving your mouse around or your controller around, and then you go, okay, there, it's gone opaque. I can just place it down. So the final bit of like filling in the foliage is a little bit more random, but it's a little bit easier, if that makes sense. So we're just going to keep placing these items down for now. I'm going to see where I can get it. I sneak it in, sort of. Looks like I need just 1 extra point of rotation, ideally. Because I kind of wanted it, if I look over around the back here, I kind of wanted it fitting as far into this diagonal that I can get. Oh, that's pretty far. That's pretty far. And then if I zoom in, you can see now, like immediately, I've not had to place those trees individually, but they already start to fill in the space. So it looks 10 times better. Using another one, I'm just going to frame up the other side. Probably another diagonal. Yeah, we're going to do another diagonal as close as we can get it. So it's going to be there. And then for any smaller gaps, there is this one with the dead tree. Now, I don't mind using the dead tree because it is frozen, so there are going to be trees that don't have leaves on. And I think we can kind of sneak this one in. I'm running right along the edge here, and I'm hitting the gap. So I'm going to have to go probably there, just like that. But that's okay, because what I can do... Actually, can I rotate that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8? Yeah, there. Okay. Oh, there we go. I can move it right up against the other one, just like that. So the frozen dead tree is kind of like what you see from that sight line, which is nice, although we'll fill in that little gap as well with some extra bits. If we move on over to the gazebo side, I can just place a couple around that as well. This one I'm going to just like sneak up to the back. At this point now, because the pathing doesn't come all the way back here, it doesn't overly matter where you place them. All that matters is you get them in and you start like filling out the space as best you can. So what I'm going to do, because we've used these items now, I can delete these Star Path items. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those just so I've got the space left. And then, yeah, we're just going to maybe sneak this one in if we can fit it. No, we can't. Well, I can get it to there. I can get it to there, which is just about in line with the other one. Actually, no, look, we can do one more rotation. That's why I like playing with the rotation. I can do one more rotation and we can kind of like get it even closer. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, that works. That works. That works. And then we'll place that just off here. Because what I can do with this bit then, that gap there, I'll just use the big frozen tree, the single one. And we'll just plop that in. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Look at that. So good. I think that might be it for these. Although, instead of us doing it manually along the back, let's just throw a couple of these down. Just ourselves. Just so we don't have to do too much filling in. Sort of like across the back of the castle. And now you can see why I keep saying that these are a great choice. If you've got a lot of space to fill in, they just come in so handy. There. That looks good. And then the rest of that space that you can see, we can kind of fill in with our own foliage. So I'll just go ahead and drop a couple of these in a sec. For now, I just want to go back down to some of the smaller details. So some of the smaller stuff around the edges here. I'm actually going to bring in these items. So this is from Eternity Isle. It's not even from the Storybook Vale, but it just happens to match really nicely with everything that we've done so far. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start placing some of these down in like the empty gaps that we have, just to fill everything out a bit, just to make it look complete, if you will. That one is on the path a little bit, but it's going to have to do because we've not got the space because of that light, which is fine. Oh no, wait, I must not have moved that light back when I needed to. Excellent. That means I can still fit that in. There we go. So I can still fit these items in, and then we'll bring that one just forward one. But you see how much of a difference these make, especially because they're all kind of like the same tones. They all bring in those kind of blue tones, and it's even got the purple of sort of like the mushrooms and stuff like that. So that is really nice. Again, we'll just drop some in just kind of randomly, and you'll see that I always rotate them just to make sure that I'm getting a bit of a random look, even though we're going for a symmetrical build. It just makes it feel like it's not totally repeating, I suppose. I'm also going to bring some over to the left side. Probably there. Actually, maybe there. Sort of like in line with the path. Just like that. I'm not listening to my own rule of coming out of furniture mode to save it, so this save might take a little while. Fingers crossed it did save everything. It does look as though it did, although it's gone a little bit foggy now, which is a shame. It must mean it's raining on the valley. Hopefully that fog will clear up shortly. But we can go back into furniture mode at least. Even if it does make things a little hard to see, I didn't realize the fog was so intense on these floating islands. I mean, wow, this is a lot of fog. But looking at it, we're really not that far off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to grab some of these smaller little shrubs and I'm just going to start infilling. So you don't have to do exactly where I'm placing them. You can kind of pick wherever you want and whatever feels good for your own foliage. These little shrubs are really nice because they're just a 2x2, so they can fit in lots of different spaces. So you can even fit them, you know, just on the edge of paths like that. It just adds just a little bit of texture and a little bit of interest. But then you can also mix it up with the different height ones. So we've got these kind of like these smaller versions that have a little bit of an interesting branch on them. You can start dropping those in. So I might put that one like kind of just over here. So even though you're not seeing it at like decorator level, if you will, when you are at ground level, like from your character's point of view, you will start to see these kind of like filling in the space. And that is what you want to do. These are basically space fillers, just like that. You see, just like that. So you are just going to want to place those around. I'm doing it totally randomly. Maybe you'll have a little bit more of a methodology than me. I'm just going random. Let's go with, there's one that I really like and I can't see if I placed, oh, here it is. It's the forked tree. I love that it's kind of like forked up in the middle. And again, this is a 2x2. So this is a really nice one for kind of like fitting in tighter spaces or spaces that don't have as much room. Like that there, I can have that right up against the castle, which is nice. And I'm going to do the same sort of like here. And it just makes it come to life. That's why I love foliage. I think they make all the difference to builds. And I'm like a super advocate for foliage, if you will. While I'm doing that, I can see that actually over here, I want something else to like separate the performance area, quote unquote, from where people are sitting. And I think we can do the same approach that we did over by the gazebo. We can have kind of like two sets of crystals, just kind of like breaking it up a little bit. So one there, one there, one there, one there. Or maybe we'll even bring it out and in front. Just trying to line that up because it doesn't... Oh, it is aligned. It didn't look like it was aligned. It looked closer on the one than the other. Well, that looks good. Oh, actually, no. Let's place it behind. So it's like kind of... Yeah, there we go. There we go. Sometimes you've just got to play around until something feels right. And that definitely feels right. I guess as well, we could bring in some lighting. Maybe like... Maybe I need to move that back by one. And then I can sneak some lighting in over here. Nope, that didn't work. No, actually, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. Because I'm trying to picture where the lighting would go. But I don't know if I want it to be on the path thing. That's the only thing going through my head right now. Although that kind of works. Something like this. Something like that. Yeah, that actually kind of looks quite nice. And that makes that whole section then feel like I was saying, like I wanted it to be separated from the seating. So actually, if I move the seating back even just one, to give you like a bit more walking room, conceptually, nobody's really walking into this space. It just makes it feel like two sort of distinct areas. That's much better. Yeah, I really like that. I'm glad I did that, actually. All right, I think I can fit some more of these shrubs or these flower bushes in. Maybe one here. Oh, and that works because I've actually got one there, doesn't it? So that looks good. But that also means I need to take out... Actually, yeah, I'm going to take out those in that case, and I'll put the flower shrubs in instead. I wonder if we can fit it just under here. I don't think I'm going to be able to. No, because of that. So I'm going to have to sacrifice the second one just there. Unless I do the flower shrub first, and then we move the tree back into place. Oh, I think this is, yeah, one of those is in the way anyway. But I could do that, and then we could do that. And then what I'll do is I'll just move that frozen tree back into place. You can see the camera starting to clip a little bit, and that is because I've placed those big trees down. Now, obviously, I did say that that can happen. It does start to like get in the way, so that's why I try to recommend doing the smaller pieces first and not leaving it so late, just so it makes your life easier a little bit, I guess. Let's come out of furniture mode and see if it's saved. There we go, the fog's cleared up. It didn't last that long. That's the nice thing about the islands I've noticed. The weather doesn't last all that long, but they are so vibrant. Like when I zoom in, like look at that. Like the vibrancy of the colors just looks absolutely amazing. We are very nearly there, I would say. This central piece here, I do want to place something down here. I'm just thinking about what I want. Because I love how it looks, like visually, especially with the path. But I kind of like just want to place some stuff around the fountains. I just don't know what I want yet. So until I do know and I decide what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep dropping in some foliage elements. That tree fits just there, fills in the space. We love it. I can see something on the other side, so maybe we can use like a smaller version here. Yeah, that looks good. I kind of like, actually, it's a little bit asymmetrical for me, but there's like two smaller ones here, but two bigger ones here. That's kind of like a fun approach. So I'm gonna just keep dropping. Actually, let's move on to the furs. I'm gonna drop some of these furs in. Like I said, you just kind of want to look for when you get a gap. Obviously, there's going to be gaps all around the back. But sometimes when you kind of like play around, you will be able to find something on the inner bit, just like that. But then it also depends on the footprint, because obviously some of them do have slightly smaller footprint. There we go, that fits. Wonder, I think it's going to be a bit too tight over there. We can get one in there though. Let's drop some of the snowy ones in as well, because those have a very different texture and they're a much smaller footprint. Well, they're not much smaller, but they are a smaller footprint. So these are only a 3x3, which means they can get into some of the smaller spaces. And the nice thing about doing it from like a bird's eye point of view and doing it from above is that you can kind of start to see where might need just some extra items, you know, especially from like color wise. So I can see that I'm kind of like, I've got 4 here, but then I've not managed to fit one in over here. So I'm going to bring something just in that way, maybe one at the back. I know we're starting to sort of like get to the very outer edges now. Wonder if there's any space for one just down here somewhere. There we go. I can fit one in. Just like that. Because there's a little gap in there as well, if you can see. Just in that little bit. And even though you don't see it from above the canopy, you can see it when you're down at this level. So there's obviously there's obviously some space just behind those frozen trees as well. I just threw myself off with how I said that. I think maybe I can get some of these little like fir tree ones in here. Maybe, do we have the space? Yes, one. And then I'm not gonna make that one symmetrical. I'm gonna mix it up with one of the ever after trees. So I'm just gonna bring in maybe this one and see if that kind of fits just like that. There we go. Yeah, just so we've got some like different trunks going on. I think over this side as well, we might have the same sort of thing. So because we've used quite a lot of the big pieces, we might just need to fill in some of the inner bits. Just grabbing literally all sorts of different trees, dropping them in, making it feel fleshed out, making it feel alive, like an actual forest. There you go. This is a good example of what I was talking about. So obviously it's like see-through trees, see-through, and then you can kind of like just drop it in when it goes opaque, and you know that it's fit. You know that it works, and chances are it will look really good. I'm also going to bring in another fir tree just kind of there. And I think, friends, we're nearly there. Because I love these fir trees so much, not necessarily the taller ones with the giant trunks, but these ones feel like Christmas trees to me. So I'm just going to try and squeeze as many of those in as I can. Let's see. I think there was space. I saw space. Or maybe I didn't, and I'm making it up, and we've done a great job at filling in, filling in all of the gaps. There we go. There was one. I think that'll do. Let's come out of furniture mode. Let's get that saved. So what I was saying about this little fountain, I'm still not totally decided, if I'm honest. I wonder if placing any of these rocks down will help me, like, decide what works. I do love these cluster rocks. And actually fitting those in around the edge might be the best choice. Let's see if we can squeeze them in without it looking too much like it's clipping onto the path. You might need to play with the rotations, like I said. I don't mind it like just creeping over the path. So you could have it just like that, and maybe there. And then what we could do, maybe, depending on how it looks, is fill in these corner gaps. Because you can still see the decorative path, but then obviously it still has like a bit of visual interest as well. So I think that looks ace. And then I'm just going to drop in a couple of rocks because these take up even less space. You might have tuned out by now. You might have been far and away with your build, and you might be miles ahead of me. However, if you are following along, then I hope you've been able to. I know that I bounce back and forth. That is actually intentional. I feel like sometimes when you focus on something for too long, you can start to like see it over and over and really not get an idea of what you want, and it starts to feel like a little samey. So I find that jumping around and working on different parts of the build like all at once, as it might seem, just makes that a little bit easier and a bit easier to manage, I suppose. That is why, especially on stream and stuff like that, you'll see me like jumping around and like doing all sorts of different things, because it just helps clear the mind, if you will. There we go. There we go. I think we might be done, friends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little tour. All right, so this is kind of the approach to the castle. We've obviously got that like archway that we did. I did make a couple of tiny tweaks. So I added in some foliage on the left and the right. I didn't do that during the build just so they didn't get in the way of the camera. But I've done that across the front just to kind of like make it all feel a little bit more enclosed. You can see the way it's got like the little raised sort of like snow dunes. So that is the entrance. We've got those nice swirly pieces. I love those icicle diamonds, I guess I would call them. They just make it feel like a really regal entrance, which is what I wanted, given we're working with a castle. And then this fountain looks really, really nice. I actually think this is one of the best pieces from the Star Path. Looking at this now, what I would do differently slightly is if I did this build again, or if I had time, would be to remove these sort of like flowers from the middle and replace them with flowers from the valley. So I would actually probably put in maybe some of the blue lilies from the actual Frosted Heights. I think that they wouldn't be as big, but they would still be as impactful. And they would just break it up a little bit, because obviously we've got these foliages around the edges as well. So that's what I would do. But coming off to the right, we've obviously got this little section here, the gazebo. It's kind of like surrounded by the frozen willow trees, and then we've got a nice little entrance to that. Unfortunately, you can't sit on these at the moment. It does say sit, but the animation doesn't actually work. So I would love to show you, but I can't. However, this is a nice space for like cooking s'mores, something like that, just relaxing, chilling, you know, that sort of vibe. Maybe warming your food on the food warmer. But coming back out, you can kind of see as I walk away, filling in with all that foliage does make all the difference, because you can see all the different tree trunks, you can see all like the foliage in the background. It just makes it feel a lot more full. So I'm going to walk around here. Again, we can see these really, really nice big swings. I love these. I would say that Those and the fountain are probably my favorite parts. Sitting down, this would be a nice little seating area for, you know, for Anna when she's coming out the castle and she needs a break for taking 3 steps. But then we can move on over to the right. This light is on, so we're going to turn that off. And we've got everyone sitting down. Look, Olaf, Wally, Eve, everybody's ready. Let's sit down. We can have an orchestral show from Woody and Buzz. It's so nice that they finally fixed the seating, so you can actually get everyone sitting down together, which is super super cute. But this is kind of like that show area, as I said. This would be where a little concert could be, and I like the fact that even though I don't love the Buzz and Woody statue, that I managed to integrate it, and it does kind of look like they're about to give us a show. Again, the same thing here, like looking at it from this angle, you can see that everything is just super, super full and rich and lush. And again, from here, because of the big items that we've used and stuff like that, everything's just really filled out, which is super, super nice. Swapping to night mode quickly. Now that I've turned this off once, I need to turn it on again. But I just wanted to show you it like at night. The floating islands do feel a little bit lighter at night than the actual valley. I don't know why, but it just seems that way. But everything is kind of like lit up really nicely. The castle obviously lights up, but then so does this quote unquote archway. But the fountain does as well. I actually didn't realize that the fountain does light up. So as I said earlier, I wished it did. It in fact does. But everything just ties together. And like even now, it feels like, you know, those photos you see online of like wallpapers of maybe the Scandi countries or something like that, where everything's just like blue, but even at nighttime, it still feels really cozy. I feel like that's the vibe for this, and everything just works together so well. Well, I would say that it does anyway. Moving over here, now Anna's got a front row seat. We can see again, even at night, this just looks super cool. Oh, the statue lights up as well. I didn't actually know the statue lit up. So everything just works. That's what I would say. Everything just works. Before I sign off, friends, this is kind of the final product from above. You can see this is our build down here. It is starting to get lost. Well, not lost, but it is starting to feel like enclosed by the foliage, but that was intentional. I wanted it to feel totally enclosed. So if I come like back out a little bit, you can see we've used most of this floating island. That much space, probably. We've got a little bit along the front, so if you wanted to do something else, there could be space to do a build, sort of like bringing the path down and then something here and something here. That could be super fun. And then you could even get rid of maybe a couple along the back and do something along the back. And then you've got like a whole Frosted Islands, floating islands build. And then you've got like a whole Frosted Heights floating island build. Amazing. All right, gang, that is it. That is the completed build. If you're still here, well done. I hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe if you followed along, it turned out just as well. Fingers crossed. I absolutely love this build. I love how it turned out. The fact that we only used Star Path items as furniture as well, I think that's really fun. It was a nice little challenge to do something different. Obviously, I'm not counting the foliage, but yeah, in terms of just furniture, it was nice to only use some of the new items we've gotten and to give us an idea of what we can actually do with these items and the concepts that you might be able to come up with. If you did enjoy this build, let me know down in the comments what you think. Perhaps you followed along and it turned out just how you hoped. Or maybe you can let me know what I might be able to improve on for next time or what you would have done different. Whatever it is, do tell me. I'm always eager to hear. I'm still actually on vacation right now, so I won't be able to reply to any comments for the time being, but I will reply to them as soon as I'm back. Perhaps you can give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and maybe even subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But with all of that being said, yes, from the start to the finish, I will leave it there for today. I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.